So most people waste Manus because they use it like a search box. So before I explain anything here today, here is the first prompt you can steal right away. Research the top 5 competitors in my market, compare their positioning, pricing, offers, website messaging, guarantees, lead magnets, reviews, and trust signals. Then identify gaps in the market and recommend 3 angles I could use to stand out. Present everything in a clear table, then tell me the smartest next move. That one prompt can replace hours of Googling, competitor stalking, scattered notes, and 20 open tabs. But the reason it works, it's not just because it's detailed. It works because you are not asking Manus a question. You are giving it an assignment, a project. That's what it's all about here today. That is the entire difference. Most people type one vague sentence, get one vague answer, and assume that is what Manus does. But no, Manus is much more useful when you're treated like a business assistant that can research, compare, organize, write, plan, challenge, and turn messy information into something you can actually use. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 Manus AI prompts built specifically for business owners, entrepreneurs, creators, consultants, and agency owners like ourselves. And the 5th prompt is the one that completely changes the way you think about AI, because that is where you stop asking for ideas and start assigning full business projects. But first, let's break down why that first prompt that I gave you works so well. This is what I call research this market for me. The first way I would use Manus is for business research. Really good for that. Not casual research, not give me a quick summary. The kind of research that usually turns into a productivity black hole, where you start checking one competitor, then you open 3 more tabs, then you check pricing pages, then you read reviews, then you look at Reddit, and then you watch a YouTube video or 2 or 3. Then suddenly you have been researching for 90 minutes and you still do not know exactly what decision to make. That is where Manus is very useful. So here's the prompt again, but listen now to the structure this time. Research the top 5 competitors in my market. Compare their positioning, pricing, offers, website messaging, guarantees, lead magnets, reviews, and trust signals. Then identify gaps in the market and recommend 3 angles I could use to stand out. Present everything in a clear table and then tell me the smartest next move. The magic is not that it says research. The magic is that it asks for a decision-ready output. It asks Manus to compare. It asks Manus to identify gaps, and it asks to recommend angles, and it ultimately asks Manus to organize the information in a table, and it tells you what to do next. And that is very different from saying, tell me about my competitors. That kind of prompt usually gives you a generic answer. The better prompt gives Manus a business outcome. If you run a service business, for example, you could use it like this. Research the top 5 local competitors for a residential roofing company in Austin, Texas. Compare their offers, reviews, website messaging, financing options, calls to action, guarantees, and trust signals. Then tell me what they are all saying, what they are missing, and how I could position a new campaign differently. If you run an agency, you could say, similarly, research 5 agencies that sell marketing service to dental practices, compare their positioning, packages, proof, lead magnets, pricing signals, and website messaging. And then identify the most common promises and suggest 3 sharper positioning angles for a new offer. And if you're in the software business, so if you're doing SaaS, you could say, Research the best CRM options for a 5-person service business. Compare price, ease of setup, automation features, reporting integrations, and very importantly, the learning curve. Recommend the best option for a non-technical founder and explain what most people overlook when choosing a CRM. This is the first retention lesson of using Manus and using Manus AI well. Don't ask for information. Ask for information that is organized into a decision. And that really is what ultimately business owners need and want, because you're not short on information. You are short on clarity, frankly. And if you want to make this prompt even stronger, you could add a sentence at the end. And I talk about this sparring partner concept in most of my recent videos, to be honest about what is overhyped and what is risky and what may I be overlooking here. That sentence matters because it prevents Manus from becoming a yes man or a yes woman. You do not want an assistant that just simply agrees with your idea, right? You want one that helps you see the trade-offs. Now, the second prompt I'm going to give you here is for the opposite problem. But before I continue, I forgot to mention below this video, I have a complete website with all the prompts and the framework you should use. So the first prompt is for when there's too much outside information. The second prompt is for when there is too much inside your own head. And I think we can all agree we do have a lot of that going on. And number two prompt is turn this mess into business assets. See, every business owner has some version of this problem. You have ideas everywhere. As entrepreneurs, every 5 seconds, we have ideas coming up. There's voice notes, half-written Google Docs. There are random bullets in your notes app on your phone, a transcript from a call, a rough offer idea, a thought you had while driving that made sense at the time and now looks like, again, another random note. The mistake is thinking you need to turn that mess into a perfect draft by yourself. The good news is you do not need to do that. That is a perfect Manus assignment. So here is the prompt. Take these messy notes and turn them into a clear business argument, a short form video script, a LinkedIn post, an email newsletter, and 5 headline options. Keep the tone direct, practical, and conversational. Challenge weak claims, remove generic advice, and tell me which angle is most likely to resonate with business owners. That is not just clean this up, that is turn this into assets. And that distinction is huge. It's massive. Because if you're running a business, the output usually needs to become something. A sales email, very common. A landing page, again, very common. A client brief, a content plan, and importantly, a proposal, a training doc, perhaps a script, an SOP, a checklist, a campaign. All of these can be leveraged, right? So stop asking Manus to merely organize your thoughts. Ask it to turn thoughts into usable business assets. For example, if you're working on a new offer, you could paste in your notes and you could say something like, turn this one-page offer description for a business owner, include the problem, the promise, who it is for, who it is not for, the deliverables, the timeline, and 3 ways to explain the value clearly. Push back on anything that sounds vague, generic, or hard to believe. That is immediately useful. If you're making content, you could say, turn this transcript into a YouTube outline, a newsletter, 10 short form video hooks, and a simple content calendar for the next 2 weeks. Keep my original point of view, but sharpen the structure and remove repetition. And if you're, let's say, an agency owner, a consultant or coach, you could say, turn these client call notes into a clean recap, action steps, risks, next steps, and a follow-up email I can send to the client, and separate what the client needs to do from what our team needs to do. That last one there is definitely underrated, because one of the fastest ways that AI can save time is not by giving you big futuristic ideas. It's by, frankly, removing all the annoying follow-up work that happens after conversations. That is the recap, the summary, the next steps, important, the internal notes, the email, the client-facing version. This is where Manus can create momentum, because most people do not lose time because they are lazy. They lose time because every task has 5 hidden tasks attached to it. You record the video, but now you need the title, you need the description, maybe you build some clips, you need an email, and you need social posts. You run the sales call, but now you need the recap, proposal, follow-up, and internal handoff. You write the offer, but now you need the landing page, FAQs, objections, and the outreach message. So use Manus to pull those hidden tasks into the open and create at least the first version. That is what the second prompt is all about. So you turn the mess into assets. Now, the third prompt is where this becomes painfully practical, because it deals with the thing every entrepreneur says they want more of. What is it? Focus. So prompt number 3 is find the bottleneck. Most productivity advice is built around doing more tasks, more habits, more planning, more systems. But business owners usually do not need more things to do. I certainly don't. They need to know what is exactly slowing the business down, because being busy can feel productive while quietly avoiding the real constraint here. You can answer emails all day and still not generate any leads. You can redesign your website all week and still not improve the offer. You can organize your task manager for 2 hours and still avoid the one sales conversation you need to have. I think we've all been there. So instead of asking Manus to help you plan your week, ask it instead to find the bottlenecks. So here's the prompt. Here is everything on my plate this week, organized by revenue impact, urgency, energy required, and delegation potential. Tell me what I should do first. What should I delay? Tell me what I should delegate and what I should eliminate. Then create a realistic weekly execution plan and challenge any priorities that do not actually move the business forward. This prompt works because it adds judgment. It's not just a list organizer. It's asking Manus AI to evaluate. And if you want to make it even sharper, give Manus your actual business goal first. For example, my main business goal this month is to book 10 qualified sales calls. Here are my current tasks. Identify which tasks directly support that goal, which tasks are distractions, and which tasks could be delegated or postponed even. Then create a 5-day plan with no more than 3 priorities per day. Now that is the kind of prompt that forces focus. That's what it's all about. And here is the sentence I would add if you're overwhelmed. Assume I'm overcommitting. Be honest about what should be removed. That line right there is uncomfortable, but it is very useful. It's the sparring partner concept again, because sometimes the best productivity advice is deletion, not optimization. Deletion, not addition. Remove the tasks. Pause the project. Stop pretending you can launch 3 things at once. And stop calling everything urgent. This is where Manus AI can help if you let it challenge you. And for small teams, this becomes even more valuable. Here's what you can say. Review these team priorities and identify where we may be spreading ourselves too thin. Recommend what to focus on, what to pause, and what needs a clear owner. Create a simple accountability plan for the week. That is not just personal productivity, that is operational leverage. And this is the broader point. Manus is useful when you give it permission to make trade-offs. If you only ask for more ideas, you get more ideas, but if you ask it to rank, remove, challenge, and definitely simplify, you get something much more useful. And that brings us to the 4th prompt, which is one of the easiest ways to use Manus AI if you're learning something new. But I would not use it the way most people do. Here's prompt number 4. Explain it, then turn it into an action plan. A lot of people use AI to explain complicated topics, and yeah, that is certainly fine, but it is not enough, because business owners do not just need simplified explanations. They need to really know what's next. So the better prompt is not explain SEO like I'm a beginner. The better prompt is explain SEO for a local service business in plain English, then turn it into a 30-day action plan. Prioritize the highest impact actions first, avoid technical jargon, and separate what I can do myself from what I should hire someone else to handle. That prompt is dramatically more useful because it turns learning into implementation. And that is the difference between watching tutorials and actually making progress. You can use the same structure for almost anything, if you think about it. And if you want to test output from multiple platforms at the same time, to test, you can use chathub.gg. As you can see here is an example of the SEO prompt. Now for paid ads, here's what you can do. Explain meta ads for a service business owner who has never run paid ads before. Then create a simple launch checklist, a starter budget plan, 3 campaign ideas, and the metrics I should watch in the first 30 days. For, let's say, an email marketing campaign, explain email marketing for a small business owner, then create a simple welcome sequence, a weekly newsletter plan, and 3 ways to measure whether the emails are helping sales. For AI agents, explain AI agents like I am a business owner, not a programmer. Then give me 5 practical ways a small business could use agents to save time, reduce admin work, or improve marketing execution. For hiring, explain how to hire a virtual assistant for a small agency. Then create the role description, interview questions, test task, onboarding checklist, and first week training plan. That last one, this is where that gets really interesting because once again, the value is not the explanation. The value, it is the deliverable after the explanation. If the answer gives you vocabulary, but no next steps, then push back. Again, sparring partner, where you can say, make this more practical. Give me examples for a real business. Remove generic advice and turn this into a checklist I could follow this week as an action plan. That line is useful because it forces the output back into reality. And this is one of the best habits you can build with Manus. Do not let it stay abstract. If it explains something, ask for a checklist. If it gives you a strategy, ask for the first 7 days. If it gives you ideas, ask for the top 3 and why. Why is very important in this context. And if it gives you, let's say, copy, ask it to point out the weakest line. If it gives you a plan, ask it what would break first under those conditions. Now that is how you keep the tool extremely useful. Now we get to the 5th prompt. I think this is the one most people are missing, because this is where you stop using Manus AI for assistance and you start using it for execution. Prompt number 5 is just handle this project. This is the big one. If you only remember one idea from this video, remember this. Manus works best when you give it projects, not questions. As I mentioned at the top, most people use AI like this. What should I post on LinkedIn? How do I get more clients? What should I do with my website? Those are not terrible questions, but they are too small. This is acting like a search engine almost. They usually produce advice, but advice is cheap. What you want is the first version of the work. So instead of asking, how do I get more leads? Do this. Give Manus the project. Help me launch a lead generation campaign for my local HVAC company. Research competitors offers in my area, identify common customer pain points, suggest 3 campaign angles, write the landing page copy, create 5 ad concepts, draft a follow-up email sequence, and give me a simple tracking plan so I know whether the campaign is working. Now that is a real assignment. It includes research, it includes positioning, it includes copywriting, it includes follow-up through the email sequence, it includes measurement. And that is why it is so much stronger than asking for tips. Tips are dime a dozen. So here's another example if you sell services as an idea. Help me prepare for a sales call with a mid-sized law firm. Research the company, summarize what they do, identify likely pain points based on their website and their market, and then create 10 discovery questions, suggest 3 ways our agency could position value, and give me a simple call prep brief. This is something you can use immediately before a call. Here's a version for, let's say, operations. Help me build a client onboarding system for my marketing agency. Create the onboarding checklist, client intake questions, kickoff call agenda, welcome email, project timeline, and internal handoff process. Make it simple enough for a small team to actually use. That is not a fun prompt, but it is a valuable prompt because business leverage often comes from boring systems. We certainly have seen that over the years. The onboarding process, the sales follow-up, the weekly reporting template, the project checklist, the hiring process, the content repurposing workflow, and the campaign plan. Those are all things that remove friction from the business. And Manus AI is useful because it can help you create the first version much faster. So let's take a look at one for content. Create a 30-day LinkedIn content plan for a B2B consultant who helps companies reduce operational waste. Include weekly themes, post ideas, hooks, calls to action, and 3 posts fully drafted for week 1. Here's one for a website. Review this website from the perspective of a skeptical buyer. Identify unclear messaging, weak calls to action, missing trust signals, and friction points. Then, rewrite the homepage structure with stronger copy and explain why each change matters. Here's one for sales. Create a 30-day client acquisition plan for a small agency with 2 team members, no paid ads, and 10 hours per week available for outreach. Include the target audience, offer angle, outreach scripts, follow-up sequence, daily actions, and how to track results. Do you see the pattern here? These prompts are not asking Manus to talk about the work. They ask Manus to do the first version of the work. That is the whole game. The goal is not to get a perfect final answer. The goal is to get a strong first version that you can review, edit, improve, and execute. I talk a lot about reprompting and the power of reprompting, which is exactly what this is. Now, you have the 5 prompts. I have a simple framework that makes all of them better. This is the part that will improve almost every output you get from Manus and any LLM for that matter. And I've added that into the website, which you can see below the video here. This is a 5-part framework, and it's the best. Manus prompts usually include those 5 things. So it's context, outcome, constraints, source material, and standards. Again, you can see that below this video. Just click on the Manus link. The context is what is happening. For example, a context might be, I run a small marketing agency for a local service business. An outcome is what you want Manus to produce, not just what you want to know. It is what you want at the end, right? So for example, create a 30-day outbound campaign plan. That's exactly what that is. Constraints now are the limits Manus needs to work within. So for example, we have no paid ads budget, 1 hour per day, and 1 person handling outreach. That's a constraint. Source material is anything useful Manus should use. That could be, as you've seen, your notes, a website, sales page, past emails, customer reviews, competitor links, call transcripts, or a rough draft. Now, standards are how you want Manus to judge the work. For example, prioritize revenue impact, avoid generic advice, challenge weak assumptions, make the plan simple enough to execute this week. So when you combine those 5 parts, the prompt becomes much stronger. So here's what that sounds like. I run a small marketing agency for a local service business. Our goal is to book 5 qualified sales calls in the next 30 days without using paid ads. I want you to use my current offer notes and website copy below as source material. Create a simple outbound campaign plan with target audience, positioning angle, daily actions, outreach messages, follow-up sequence, and success metrics. Keep the plan realistic for 1 person working 1 hour per day. Challenge anything in my current offer that sounds unclear, generic, or hard to believe. That is an excellent, very good Manus prompt. It tells Manus what business you are in. It tells Manus what outcome you want. It tells Manus the limits, the constraints. It gives Manus source material, and it gives Manus quality standards. So that framework fits perfectly into any of the prompting you'll do here or in the future. The standards part is where most people are weak. They ask for an answer, but they do not tell Manus how to judge whether the answer is good. So add standards like make this practical, prioritize speed, prioritize revenue impact, avoid generic advice, challenge weak assumptions, tell me what I'm missing. Make this simple enough for a small team. Give me the first version, not theory. That is how you avoid the fluffy AI answer that sounds nice, but really, does nothing. And if Manus gives you something too broad, don't start over, just tighten the assignment. You can say, this is too generic, make it more specific to my business. Reduce it to 3 highest impact actions and turn it into something I can execute this week. That is a great follow-up prompt. It rescues weak output fast. Because the secret is not writing one perfect prompt. That is ultimately a essential secret. The secret is managing the conversation like you would manage a smart assistant or researcher. You give the assignment, you review the work, you tighten the standard, and you ask for the usable version. And that is how Manus AI becomes extremely valuable to you and to your business. So the final takeaway, if you are using Manus and if it feels underwhelming, the problem may not be the tool. It may be the assignment, as you've seen. If you ask tiny questions, you usually get tiny answers. But if you give it context, a clear outcome, constraints, source material, and standards, you can get something much, much more useful. Use it to research a market. Use it to turn messy notes into assets. Use it to find the bottleneck. Use it to explain something and turn it into an action plan. Use it to handle the first version of a real business project. Because Manus really works best, as you've seen, when you stop asking questions and you start assigning outcomes. That, my friend, is the real shift. Not what can AI tell me, but what work can I hand off, structure, accelerate, or turn into a usable first draft. That is indeed where time savings happen. That is where the mental clutter goes down and ultimately, hopefully, disappears. That is where you stop bouncing between tabs. We have enough of tabs, staring at blank pages, and carrying every half-finished idea in your head. So, here is my challenge to you. Do not use Manus today for a tiny question. Give it one real project. Ask it to research it, organize it, challenge it, and turn it into something usable. And if you want the easiest place to start, use the first prompt from this video. If you recall, it was research the top 5 competitors in my market. Compare their positioning, pricing, offers, website messaging, their guarantees, lead magnets, reviews, and trust signals. Then identify gaps in the market and recommend 3 angles I could use to stand out. Present everything in a clear table, and then tell me the smartest next move I should make. Try that once, and you will understand the difference between asking AI a question and giving Manus an assignment. If this helped, if you like these videos, please subscribe, like it. I enjoy your feedback. I'll be sharing more practical AI workflows for business owners. That is you, for entrepreneurs, for marketers and creators, and executives who want to use these tools to actually get work done. It's an amazing time, an amazing place right now, and Manus is a powerful tool to help you. And if you want help building smarter AI workflows for your business, there is a link below. I'd love to talk to you. You can reach out and connect with me there. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.